As humans, we love to be able to predict what is coming because high levels of uncertainty can feel straining. And right now, there's a lot of that. Global conflict with Iran. And if you are here, you're likely a crypto investor. And the 4 year cycle didn't really play out. Bitcoin stopped short of where it probably should have gone. And most altcoins didn't really run, at least yet. Now, what can we expect? Well, my magic crystal ball doesn't work, but sometimes price action in the markets gives us some clues. We'll take a look at Bitcoin, ETH, and then a few others showing some interesting signs. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel in our family. Now, have you ever wanted to solve your money problems by making your money work so well for you, you didn't have to worry about money again? Almost like Forrest Gump after the shrimp boat business did so well for them. Now, how would that feel? Because isn't that really why we came into crypto? What if you learned to use your money to work for you just right so you never had to worry about money again? Now, personally, I grew up poor in life, which meant secondhand clothes, packed lunches every day for school, and it's not bad to grow up that way. There's actually some good things about that. But not having some money when I grew up, I realized there is a value to money, and that value is it allows us options in life, as well as it can decrease that gnawing worry we carry of how do we meet all these financial obligations and perhaps afford the nicer things we want and the travel we want. After a few months of being in crypto, when I started 8 years ago, I recognized that crypto investment done right had the most amazing, massive potential to allow us to get to a place where we didn't have to worry about money again. But after 8 years of being in crypto, I realized that there's a huge catch to all of this. And the huge catch is about 95% of people are doing it wrong. See, crypto investment works amazingly well towards your goals when you take the right actions. But most aren't taking those actions. Only 5% of crypto investors make the life-changing gains that they really came here for and that take them into the lifestyle that we all dreamed about as kids. Now, haven't we all learned in life that if you find what successful people are doing and you copy exactly how they do things and how they think about things, you start having their results? So when I was newer in crypto, I focused everything on figuring out what those 5% did and put it into practice myself. And that allowed me by 2021 using those principles to fire my day job, move to the city I wanted, and put myself in position to never have to work again I didn't want to. And here on this channel is where I share what I learned. I share my research on the companies I like and why I like them. Today is our price analysis day. This is a day where we combine what I've learned with our special guest, Paul, joining us from Definity. Paul has 30 years price analysis experience analyzing charts. It's a fun time to look at the price movements of what's happening and see what might be cheap and what might be really cheap and what might be expensive and what might be about to explode. If you are looking to be part of the 5% that makes life-changing gains, join the Patreon in the link below that will give you access to the Rainmaker private Discord. There, you'll be surrounding yourself with people who have learned and are learning to do things the right way, which is exactly how you get good at this. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the show with Paul. We have him just for about an hour today. Oh, it looks like I put the wrong thumbnail on it. Thanks for the heads up on that. Let me go in and change that. Paul, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good to be here. Yeah. Don't know what the thumbnail was, but here I am. So ready to go. I'm sure we got the charts up as well. So yeah, hi everyone. And yeah, hi everyone in the comments as well.
Yeah, so how's this last week been and how have you been?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's been a very interesting week. What we had was a massive panic move. I think we suggested last week that it was unusual for the markets to need to go down straight after announcement of war, and oil price went up a lot, but then came down just as fast, which is fairly typical. And the markets have had a risk on bounce, and that's good too. So from where I'm sitting, I don't think the bull market in equities or risk on is over. It could be that we've got a bit more to go on the downside, perhaps on the cryptos. We had a good bounce up to about 70, 72. and markets kind of trying to work out which way to go from here. And there's still a lot of fear in. I mean, it reminds me of the gold market when we hit that spike, and after that happened, we had that big move down, and then it went back up again, and now it's going into this range. So like off a bungee jump, you know, it sort of goes down and up and down and up and down, and then it sort of stabilizes. So I think that's pretty much what the market is doing right now. They're not really sure how to take anything. But I think further out we will see, you know, risk come back. It's just a question of where it will come back in terms of where the crypto will be. You know, will it be lower, or will it have consolidated and gone sideways, and then will it move into a bull market from that point?
Yeah, I've been watching one of the big indicators, and I've shared this with you before, but in the past, when altcoins have really run, it's also coincided with global money supply increases. And so that coincided more than any other single factor with major altcoin rallies. And with possible change in, well, definite change in Fed chairman in the US coming up, which could possibly lead to the US lowering interest rates more. I wonder if that's going to lead to massive money supply growth, which a lot of times that filters then into altcoins.
Yeah, it could do. I think rates probably will go down anyway. You can just sort of tell that there's this sort of global fear going on, of course, for obvious reasons, and the natural response from central banks would be to cut interest rates. So that would make sense regardless of the Powell change situation. I think the real problem to look out for is what happens to the long end and whether yields start to rise or whether they come down. And US yields were rising last week, but they've come off and then they've gone back up again. So we're kind of in this no man's land of, it's not in an upward trend, it's not in a downward trend, it's kind of stalled. But it's the long end that I think will be important, even if the short end does go down, which the futures aren't pointing to, but I think is a greater than, you know, there's a greater probability of that happening. And that's possibly why the equity markets might go back up again. But see, crypto's kind of decoupled slightly from what we've seen. And therefore, I think there's potential for a correction. And actually, I was thinking about it from last week. You know, what is the reason for this move down in crypto? And the market often has a handle on what's going on. I mean, there's no way that they didn't know that they were going to do this, right? So information would leak. And the other part of that is that information's leaked, but what has actually happened? Oil prices have gone up a lot, and energy prices are going to go up a lot. And I'm really sorry, my dog is barking like absolute crazy, and I do not know why. I think there's somebody at my door, but anyway, I was just checking my messages there just to see what on earth it's causing it. So it could be that oil prices have gone up, or we're going to go up, and of course it costs money for all the miners. The more the energy costs go up, the more expensive it becomes for the miners. And I know that gets adjusted with Bitcoin. You know, you can make it harder or easier to solve the cryptographic codes or the cryptographic queries, as it were. You can do that, but in the short term, it's got to adjust. And perhaps one of the reasons why it was doing so well and prices were going up as well as risk on has been because of the cost of energy. The other thing is also perhaps the amount of competition that is now going to come to energy given AI, and the fact that a lot of the servers, a lot of the new energy resources that are being created or found when Bitcoin was created, it was very inventive ways of kind of tapping into natural resources in order to make electricity and turn it into Bitcoin, which turns it into money. But there's this demand on the data centers that are crunching all these numbers, and billions are being spent on it. So that makes it harder for it to easily create your Bitcoin from your farm. So that could be one reason. I mean, as I say, I'm a technical analyst. It's not the fundamentals that I normally look at, but it just seemed to make sense, because we were talking about why did Bitcoin fall when nothing else did, and that could be one of the reasons. People might have different opinions as to what actually caused it, and I'd be open to it. I'm not completely, rigid about why I think this has happened, but it's an interesting one. And so what we might see is, while oil prices go higher over the next weeks and months, it might take a bit more of adjustment in Bitcoin, certainly if we use that as an anchor. And then once it finds a low, then it might be at a point when things have perhaps calmed down and oil prices start to normalize. That could be something that drives the price back up again, and we could be in a risk-on phase on top of lower interest rates. So that's the scenario I'm moving towards. I think, broadly speaking, the dollar goes down, and broadly speaking, risk-on is still there. I can't see that we're at the end of that. And so it's just a question of when we're going to get this response from both Bitcoin, the majors, and of course, altcoins. I would be prepared for more downside. I think that's fair at this point, but I hope not. I hope to be wrong on that. Perhaps if things go straight up and recover quickly, that would be great. But I just can't call that right now until I've got a bit more evidence.
What markets are you watching right now? What are you keeping an eye on that's outside of crypto before we roll in over to crypto?
Yeah, just pretty much everything, really, as usual. I mean, I was looking at this consolidation. Perhaps if I show the S&P, I was looking at this as a consolidation last week. I think I was saying that I thought there was potential for it to squeeze higher because it was in a compression. But we have seen it go down. But given what's gone on, look at the news. The news has been really scary headlines, World War III, all that sort of stuff. Not really moved that much compared to the news. And I think that suggests to me that the market's just got more upside, and this is just a correction. And it's corrected a bit harder in the Dow Jones, but nothing that would be anything to write home about. So this is still a corrective phase that's going to be volatile. Now, there could be a head and shoulders pattern forming here, possibly, but we'd have to wait and see. And it's a trait of kind of new technical analysts that they're always looking for a reversal pattern, and I tend to ignore that and look for the market to continue, because that's what it usually does. And there are times when it doesn't, of course, but that's more the exception rather than the rule in certain trends. So for the moment, I think this has still got more upside, but I am watching this line. If it goes down and then rebounds and comes back down again, which is there's a few ifs in there, then we'll be looking at perhaps a reversal pattern. But I think it'll be early for it to do that. And the compression in the S&P 500 suggests to me more that the market's going to go higher. We've had the move up in the dollar, and it's been a fairly sharp move. There might be a little bit more to squeeze out of it, possibly, but not everything is moving downwards against the US dollar. I mean, I'll give you an example of the Aussie dollar, which is moving up against the US dollar, quite aggressively. And if we look at sterling against the US dollar, that's not exactly moving. It's moved down a bit, but it's kind of trying to go back up again. Now, I know the Aussie is a commodity currency, and therefore you'd expect it to go higher. And also the Canadian dollar is a commodity currency. So the fact that it might strengthen against the US dollar would make sense. But it's still showing that there's patchiness in this dollar rally, which does suggest that it's going to peter out at some point. And that certainly does help the risk on scenario, which might be why equities haven't moved as low as the fear has suggested. Now, of course, the other side of that is oil, and we look at how it started to break out. I was actually bullish. I thought this looked like a little reversal and the market would go higher. I didn't expect it to blow out as quickly as it did, but then when the news came, it made sense. But it's kind of rare for the market to blow out on news and keep going. And that's why I get this correction makes sense. So I think more volatility. You know, who could buy it, who could sell it? I don't know. There's the range is just too big, even for short-term players, unless you're literally watching every tick. You can't kind of trade it and walk away because there's nowhere to put stops. So you've either got to be a very long-term player, in which case I think very long-term we're expecting the market to go up. In the short to medium term, I think it will settle and come lower. But there is definitely an inflationary feel about the markets here that would suggest more dollar weakness, more which would translate into oil potentially working its way higher. Now that points also to the precious metals markets, gold and silver, which are still in ranges. You know, gold looks like it's going up. Silver is still in this consolidation. Now, topping patterns can form like this, where you get this type of volatility, and the main key point is $64. But again, it's not confirmed anything. It's literally on a balance point right in the center of this range. So for the moment, the trend is up. It's been aggressive, but it's not over yet. So we're just waiting to see. Precious metals are, you know, on the sidelines, but I'm always interested in seeing that go higher, which I think they will. The US short-term yields, like 2-year, well, this is the 3-year. Let's put the 2-year up and see where that is. 2-year yields. Now you can see how that is now pressing this resistance point, 3.63. I mean, it's not a big move, but it is a big resistance point. If we go back to kind of September last year, this is the highest point, and we're talking about interest rates being cut, but yields aren't really moving down. So just got to keep an eye on what's going on here to see if this starts to accelerate upwards. Normally in fear, you'd expect bonds to go down, bond yields to go down, bond prices to go up, because people normally run to the safest area, and that would be government bonds. So but they don't seem to be buying government bonds, they seem to be selling them, which is a bit unusual. So that's suggesting inflation, especially in the 10-year. But for the moment, if we look at this chart without knowing anything about the news, it's sitting in the middle of the range. So I would say that where we are now, the situation is still very balanced, and when it breaks out in trends, we're going to see something fairly spectacular, because it's been in a range for such a long time. You know, going back to October 22, pretty much been range bound from there. So what is going to break it out of this range, I'm not sure. But when it does break, we will start to see the markets trend quite aggressively. And if I show you an example of how that's happened in other places, this is the 10-year in Australia, and it's just popped over 5%. That's a major move, and that looks like we're going much higher. So there's a general trend for bond yields on the long end to go upwards, and that is competition. That is competition for capital, because you're getting a higher and higher yield on what is pretty much the safest of the assets for a certain country. Now, at the moment, that seems to be driving the Aussie dollar higher. But you know, it's not a trend we want to see get too out of whack, because if yields rise very, very fast, then there is a chance that it will, you know, pull money from other areas, especially the stock market. So I would suggest that for the moment, things are under control. But if you can ask me what I'm looking at things like bond yields, short and long term, and global bond yields, to see. Normally there would be a leading indication from the US. You know, the US tends to lead because it's the biggest economy. It would normally lead what's going on, but at the moment, it seems like some of the other countries are leading the yields higher. So for the moment, we've got to see where this is going to play out, and whether it's going to break upwards or break downwards. Definitely breaking downwards would be very bullish, especially if the dollar's going down. And I suppose there's also the chance that Trump might not be president as well, and I think that could change the whole outlook for this risk on, as further down the curve. So there's all sorts of things in the mix. But for the moment, going back to the Bitcoin chart, because that's our main market here. What we've what have we got here? So what we've got is downward trend. Let's get it on a weekly bar so we can get a bit more data. So you can see downward trend. We've had this consolidation. The market's had a short-term rally, which I think we were looking at last week. It's coming back for another go, but we're still below this main downward trend here. And until it gets back over that, I'm going to be in a cautious mode, just looking for interim rallies. Got this downward trend, downward moving average as well. It's got to be above that. That's still falling. Some good support coming in. And I think big picture, when we look at the trend, it's still up. This is still corrective in terms of that trend. We've got a big level here, 57,000 if that hits. But normally, when the market kind of turns, we see a little bit more than this as a consolidation. I mean, as I say, I'd be very happy if I'm kind of wrong in my cautiousness and it goes up much faster. That would be great. But for the moment, I think this is still trending lower, and or at the very least, I need to be cautious in case it does let these gains go, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier.
It's been interesting watching. I've been following the RSI because it doesn't often go so low. And recently, when we had that massive move down in February, look how low the RSI got. It got to like 16 here. If we look back in history, when it got that close, each of these points was an amazing buy opportunity on Bitcoin, especially when it hit like as low. So it hit as low in March of 2020 when we had this huge crash across both stocks and crypto. Amazing time to buy. This was the other low during the bear market right here. This was the true low where it went to 3,200. Then it ran up and then it came back down to 3,800 at that point. And so when the RSI gets this low, that's usually some kind of a low signal. There's other times where it came low, but not as low. But each one, just buying when the RSI gets so low, it's almost always then followed by higher numbers. And so, like, I really only follow RSIs close when I see it get to such low numbers. And it really got punished, which is a good sign.
Yeah, I've not heard you mention it before, to be honest, because it is a technical indicator as opposed to a fundamental one. But yeah, the RSI you have to look out for in terms of its context, and it can read very low and the trend can just keep going. So it depends. It's not really designed to be used in a trend. It's designed to be used in a range, and that's how a lot of people get caught out with the RSI because they think it's overbought and oversold, and they just trade it on the main signal, and then they end up getting caught by buying something that's getting cheaper and cheaper, and the signal keeps saying it's a buy, but it's not. It's a trend, so you have to be very careful with it.
Yeah, I don't follow it except for when it gets so punishingly low, because if you just follow it on this general thing, there are times that you'll see, like right here, the RSI got kind of low, not near as low. So it went to 20, but if you see it went 20 and then went higher, and then it just went so much lower than that. But when it gets so very low, there are few points where it's gotten that low, and each of those points was near a really good low. So that's not a sign for sure that that's the low that we're going to hit in the short or medium term. It's an indicator that the probability is decent that it is.
Yeah, you can get extreme readings that can indicate that the market is getting ready to turn, and clearly the point when it did hit that extreme reading, there was a spike lower, and we could see on the sentiment that things had hit a strong low. So in terms of a short-term buy, it was definitely an important point. But whether it turns out to be a significant low point from where the market trends all the way back up to 100,000. Look, I hope so. I think that would be great. I'm more inclined to look at the price action for confirmation rather than the RSI, but it can be useful, and that is, you know, something to note that it has hit an extreme level.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at ETH. Then we have some other altcoins. One that we looked at the other week that's at an interesting point. So let's step over and take a look at ETH.
Yeah, so ETH still is in this consolidation, isn't it? It's it made the low, then it kind of rallied back up over this 2156, which was a key level, but it didn't stay there. But that 2156 goes back all the way along here, so it's very, very key. It's now below it, so we've got to be cautious. I'm neutral on it here. I think it's really difficult to say that it's a buy because we're below this trend line. But it's also, you know, I can understand that things have become oversold, and there is a chance that it will rally back over. But I think until it's taken out this downward trend line, I'm going to be cautious. I think longer term, yes, things will recover. I think things will go back up. There will be risk coming back into the market. I think we just got to play this week to week, and while it's in this neutral zone, I'm going to be a wait. I'm quite happy just to sit and wait and see what it does. If it takes this lower line out, that would be a red flag for a strong move down. It would suggest that the you know, the buying is running out and things are starting to correct again. So I would be looking for that as a trigger point. So we've effectively got two trigger points. We're sitting between them, 2156 as a close over, and this rising line, which currently is around around 1880. So close below 1880, we'd see if the price action starts to accelerate down. And then if it does go down, we'll be looking at maybe this kind of 1400 area as the next test. That's really good support. So we could get an opportunity to maybe pick it up at a lower level. And maybe that's where the consolidation will start to form the next base for the next kind of bigger rally. But for the moment, I think it's just wait and see. And if I had to do something, I would be waiting.
Yeah, ETH is really, really cheap at the moment, but it might get even cheaper. And what's crazy is how ETH has played out this this bear market, and with alts not really having an explosion. Now it did explode up from wherever it was in the bear market. I think it bottomed at like 900 or something, and it went all the way up to almost 5,000, just reaching its previous highs. But it really hasn't gone above its previous highs. And so many people are taking that to mean there's no altcoin rally this cycle. I agree with Raoul Pal, who says this is just an extended cycle, that a lot of the action hasn't happened yet. Let's take a look at what's going on with Hyperliquid.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with the extended cycle argument that things haven't happened yet. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It's made sense that to have the final blowout, you'd have excessive speculation, especially in alts. It might have been that we've seen that, but it doesn't feel like we have. So it will be interesting to see in the next phase, and there will be a next phase. It's going to probably clear everybody out before we get to that phase, and all the short late buying that's come in, leverage would just be taken out, and then we'll see what the market really wants to do. But yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure when he said that. I think the last interview I heard him talk about the markets was when he was talking about SUI and how he moved out of ETH into SUI. But I think it was ETH. No, it was Bitcoin. That's right. It's Bitcoin. And he was just owning SUI, which has obviously gone down with everything else. So it just goes to show that it's not a coin specific move. So if it was just Bitcoin or just ETH or just one or the other, then in some ways, if it's just the one that you're holding, then you've just picked the wrong one. But if it's everything, it's a broad bear market, and we just have to work out when that's going to end, and it move into a new bull phase, which it has done before. And even if Bitcoin does it around 50,000 or 40,000, it's still up from its previous low, which was at 15. So we have to look at it in terms of these long-term kind of patterns, I guess. But so hyper liquid. So this is quite an interesting chart, because again, this isn't one of these easy ones which are easy to call. We've got something that is halfway between. We got the top of the bull market. We've got the recent bear here, and then it's kind of in between the two. So unfortunately, that means it is kind of balanced. I mean, do you take the upward trend and say it's going up from here, or do you say it's going down from there? That's where the difficulty comes in with the market being in this point. But what we can say is that it has broken two of the downward trend lines, and that kind of gives the balance towards the upside, because it was in a bear market. That was what it did last time. That ended here with this rally, corrected down, and now we've got another rally coming. Where we'd like to see it get above is this 38, because that would complete complete the top of this, which would be an automatic buy. It's also a big trigger around here as well. When it was making this top, that top was triggered here. So the fact that it's around this area is very, very key for this particular market. We could also draw in an upward trend line from here, and if I was playing this, that's the line I'd be running it from. So given that most people would probably be going long, if my strategy was to buy it, I would just put a stop below this upward trend line, and I'd be looking for that to drive the market, or that would be my kind of stop loss point or parachute point to get out when I'm wrong, or if I'm wrong. But if it stays above and keeps going, then great. But here, small buy, just an exploratory position, I think would be for me. Maybe adding to it if it got over 38 and closed over that. The only caveat would be that this is really swimming against the tide, and there will always be things that go up when the broader market's going down. So it's good to look out for them. It's just that you're, as the expression, as I just said, you are swimming against the tide if everything's going down. So you have to be more careful. There are easier times to get in when most things are going up, and then you're kind of pushing, you're going along with the kind of sentiment or the stream of the market. But see, what I'm thinking in the background is, if everything is still not ready to turn, then how much of this is going to push against that, or be able to rally against the kind of broader market sentiment? And if it does, that's, it's fantastic. We have seen that happen, with things like Monero, but it didn't really stick. So we have to keep our kind of stops and our exit points fairly close, I would say, just because of the kind of macro sentiment. But for the moment, it's done very well, and I can see why you'd want to have a look at it. But other than a small, position, long position for me, I couldn't justify much more than that. So it's kind of either a kind of interesting wait where, because the price action is doing something that's unusual, it's definitely should be on the radar, but not enough to put a full position on, just a kind of small exploratory one for now.
Good. All right, let me dig into a little bit about Hyperliquid. So here's the longer term chart. Notice that this launched in the bear market. And normally you wouldn't see it. This is number 11 on CoinMarketCap. So it's got a really big market cap with it really hasn't been around in trading all that long, but essentially they provide a cutting edge layer 1 blockchain crafted to support a full on-chain open financial system. Essentially, it's positioned as a multifaceted blockchain platform that caters to a wide array of financial activities, essentially from asset deployment and application development to advanced trading functionalities. Where was the part I really wanted to share? Let's see. Essentially, they run perpetual futures trading on Hyperliquid, and it's fast and it's really, really cheap, and it's getting a lot of use. And so that's why it's so high. Like Hype surges 5% as Hyperliquid tops 1.4 billion in oil's perpetual volume. So you can trade oil futures on this, and that's why it's getting so much traction. Fundamentally, like, it's already a higher market cap. I like the future of this. I just don't like to buy what's hot. I like to buy it when it's not. And it's really never hit a point where it's clear that it's massively undervalued. And even here, it came down a lot, down to 20, but it's almost doubled that. And so for me, it's just a wait. I like this one, but I like to buy when it's clear in my book, in my way of looking at things, that it's massively undervalued. And it hasn't hit that, and it may not hit that. I mean, I like the potential for Hyperliquid and what it does. Essentially, it makes the trading fees really close to zero. And then the makers get subsidized for making a price. And then the takers pay a small fee for taking the trade. It's a good system. I like what they've done with it. But I'm not going to buy it up so high when there's so many other ones I do like that are cheap. Plus, it is in the large cap coins, which I'm not buying large caps anyway. Not this cycle, maybe the next one. But and it's solidly a large cap at a $9 billion market cap. All right, let's jump over to Layer Zero, another one we looked at the other week.
Yeah, I like the chart of this actually, and I think we may have discussed that when we talked about it, but there's this big resistance point around 2.7 that I think the market's getting drawn towards, and it's still in a consolidation, but it's the sort of pattern that would indicate that the market is making a base. So having a exploratory long at this point and adding to it, if we take out this 2.7 level, I think would be really interesting. I like the kind of balance of the chart as well. That's how long it's taken in this phase and how long it's taking in this phase with this as the center point. So it was likely to take a bit longer before it completes, but it's getting drawn back towards this key breakout point at 2.7. And look, it's going up against the flow of the market. So it's doing well. Now, I can't remember what it does. You have to remind me because we look at so many. I can't keep them all in my head. But regardless, I like the look at this. And I think this is one that going from like a 2 weekly to a weekly, I think this should be every couple of days. You should be keeping an eye on this to see if it's going to get ready to break out, because this gap is definitely closing and this 2.7 is definitely a strong resistance point stroke trigger. And it's been knocking on that door a few times. So that'd be great if it could break out. What sector is it in?
It's like a layer 1 blockchain. I mean, their big message is it's a layer 0 blockchain, basically allowing different blockchains to communicate with each other.
Okay.
So it's really a comparative WAN chain.
And what do you think of it in terms of its technology? Do you have any views on it?
I'm not certain, really. It's got a really high market cap. Not extremely high. It's approaching, it's at 643 million. And so like, it's got a lot of hype. Like I remember when they were doing a pre-sale on it and everyone was talking about it. It's the future, layer 0. And it's got a good pitch, right? Oh, it's a layer 0 blockchain instead of like a layer 1 blockchain. It's like it's underneath a layer 1 blockchain, helping them all communicate. So it's got a strong story, but how good is the team and how good is the technology? Well, it doesn't have a lot of history here. So I made some decisions myself for what I was going to buy after going through, I guess I'd been in from 2017 to 2021 in that bull market. About 2022 and 2023, I was looking back at what did the best for me in the bull run. And I found what I liked the best is projects that were at least 2 years old, because I got a better bead on how the team is working and continuing to work. So at least 2 years old, and I like to buy them when they're extremely price punished. And so usually they'll, in that 2 years, experience some kind of high, and then they'll come down where you're buying really cheap. And what I like to see is a team working really, really hard, even though the price is really, really low. And that's the bread and butter of what I bought during this last bear market. And so layer 0 doesn't completely fall in there. It's about 2 years old now. But like, how hard is the team working? It would just get to the point where I would really start researching the team if I were serious about this one, and see how hard are they working. It's about 2 years old. I would wait though to see a time when they're more price punished. That doesn't mean the chart isn't, like, I'm the one that put this on the list to look at because the chart looks really interesting versus most everything else in crypto. It could be signaling that this one's ready to run. Most of the other charts in crypto do not look like that.
This move down here, do you think that was real, or is that just a bad print on the chart?
So this is on Binance. That was probably when Binance ran out of liquidity. Yeah, October 10th, right? And so they had a depegging of their thing and messed up, and some trades executed those prices because there was no liquidity. So people who had buys in at these absurdly low prices got their buy orders triggered, and a whole bunch of people got liquidated because they couldn't log into the exchange to get their orders off. And so just automatic liquidations were happening and automatic buy orders were being triggered.
Right.
So it was an anomaly. That's happened to Binance once in its history, but that wasn't Binance's exchange. Yeah,
sorry. I was asking, I know there was that big event, but I was just wondering, even given that event, did this trade really as low as this, or was it just kind of a chart misprint? But it sounds like it really did, which is unfortunate. I think it's more unfortunate for the people who had long positions rather than the ones who had very chancy kind of bids in there that got filled, because you really don't want to be in a market that does something like that.
Oh yeah. That showed a breakdown in Binance's system and setup. So some people who had buy orders in, they got an amazing deal, and some people who were long, everyone who was long actually got liquidated. I think Binance came in and made some of those people whole, but I'm not certain on it.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting one. It's good. Yeah, good one to follow.
Yeah. So for me on layer 0, let me jump over, share what I'm looking at. So here's the chart. Let's get down into, one of the concerns I have with them is continued token unlocks through 2027. So that's going to put downward price pressure on it, but they look like they're somewhat reasonable. Well, I don't know, because it seems like they have how many in circulation? Probably about 600 million. And they're going to be 1 billion in circulation by this time next year. So they're releasing them pretty regularly. Yeah. I do like to look at that vesting schedule. It says layer 0 is an omni-chain interoperability protocol designed for lightweight message passing across chains, essentially compared to WAN chain. Layer 0 provides authentic and guaranteed message delivery with configurable trustfulness. The blockchain of blockchains that allows other blockchain networks to communicate directly in a trustless manner. Interesting, but look at their market cap. We're going to look at WAN chain later and compare market caps, right? Because they have similar functionality. And so layer 0, for me, no, this is a no. It's like, I would like to see the team around longer. I'd like to see what they do. And I want to buy it at a price where I can look at that and be like, yeah, it's extremely price punished. And yet they have a really good team that's working really hard and good opportunities in front of them. Yeah, I think layer 0 plays come into focus in the next run. Thanks, Sal. All right, let's jump into Trump coin, which is a meme coin, which I don't like meme coins. I didn't buy Trump coin when it went crazy, but this is one of the reasons why I don't touch meme coins, is you can see stuff just like this.
Yeah, I mean, the chart looks bearish. The fact that it's a meme coin is, sometimes these are going up, and I'm a chartist and I would call it a buy if it was going higher, even though if the underlying market isn't something that I particularly agree with. But when it's going down, it's kind of doubly bearish, isn't it? Because I wouldn't buy it because of the chart, and I wouldn't buy it because there's nothing behind it. And there is that kind of sour taste about the way it was kind of pumped up in the first place. So yeah, there's kind of quite a few reasons why I wouldn't be interested in buying it anyway. Sentiment wise and a kind of ethically why. But putting all those to one side and just focusing on the chart, it's going down. So I couldn't buy it even if I wanted to, based on technicals. Some very clear downward trend lines there, and it's actually breaking into a new low, and we've got that Binance low here, the big spike, but it's just heading back towards that. Now it may turn around, and if someone's bought it on speculation, I have no wish for them to see it go lower from that perspective, but it just looks like that's the probability from where I'm sitting. So yeah, for me, I would say it's a sell, or definitely a wait.
Yeah, it's the chart looks down, and meme coins aren't my thing. Meme coins are a different type of analysis. You're really trading on sentiment. And so you have to focus all your gears on sentiment analysis. Like, what is the population that's trading crypto thinking about it? It's not that you can't successfully trade meme coins. Most of the people that I know that make money on meme coins is because they're part of hype groups that pump up something, and they have followers, and they essentially pump them to their followers, and that creates enough momentum, and then they dump, right? And I just don't like that type of analysis. I don't like that type of behavior. I prefer buying things on a company that I feel has strong fundamentals, because it has strong fundamentals. rather than using my audience as my exit liquidity. Something would feel so off about that to me. So Trump coin, I didn't like it from the get-go. I don't like meme coins in general. It's not that I don't know some people that trade them based on sentiment. It's just not my thing. I want to analyze companies and the leaders behind those companies, and is what they're doing useful for society. This is more like just, I don't know, like horse racing, betting on horse races and stuff. Meme coins. And some people just like to gamble. And so gambling is more their things. Being somewhat backed by the Trump family, of course, this was going to do well if you were able to get into it right away. But since then, it's just been punished, right? So back here was $1.20, went all the way up to 45. I think it went higher than what it's even showing here. And then it's just been a long slide downward. I don't know where the bottom of this is, but probably it will flip around at some point when crypto gets some momentum back. This just isn't my kind of buy. So, like, would it be a sell? Well, I never would have bought it. And I just like other types of things fundamentally over meme coins in general, right? There's been some interesting developments with meme coins, some that have moved into like actual physical collectibles, plushies and stuff, and that's really interesting what they're doing. But historically, I don't touch meme coins. Doge, I don't do pretty much any of them. Now, that's a decision I made too after doing them when I was newer in crypto and just figuring out that I didn't like the probabilities on them. All right, let's take a look at WAN chain, see what's going on there.
Yeah, so pretty much the same sort of trend that we've seen in some of the other markets. It's downwards for now, and if we draw in the main downward trend line, that's the rate, and it has accelerated a little bit recently. So we've got this line here that's being chewed, but I don't know if it's actually done enough for me to say it's a buy. So the trend rate had increased at this point, but it's now just kind of going sideways. If I get a horizontal line, here we are. So this is the key point here at 8 cents. So we've got this support, and it's trying to break through here. Let's zoom in a bit and you can see it a bit better. See, this support, try to get through here, didn't. It's been going sideways, had another go, hasn't gone through it. It's clearly very close to the prior low as well, and that's very well defined too. So in technicals, you're looking for trigger points to either buy or sell, and these two look pretty tight together. So between this kind of 0.06103 and 0.08162, one of them's got a break, and it's a question of which one. Now, I would say, given the downward trend, it's more likely that it will break lower. This isn't enough for a reversal pattern for me, so I think this could well get a bit cheaper. There's obviously a bit of buying going on here because we got back to the 2020 low, and that was a big support area. So you might have seen some kind of extra buying happening at that point, but that's not enough to turn the trend around. So where I would lift that kind of bias to the downside would be if it can get over this 0.08162. So if it gets above that, then we can start talking about some other form of reversal. But for the moment, I'd have to be a bit cautious and say it might play in the short term in this range, but until it gets away from this danger zone of support, I'm going to have to play it cautiously and say it's a wait for me for now.
Yeah, it's not clear that the trend has turned around on it, and the trend has been punishing on the price. But this is more the type of opportunities I like. So their market cap is down at 13.5 million. And you see this trend. It's not clear that this trend is turned around, but I thought this little update they put out here encapsulates it pretty well. Moving XRP shouldn't require bridging, switching wallets, and reconnecting networks just to swap. That friction is what keeps the multi-chain stuck. OneChain is building towards a chainless experience. One action from the user, routing, bridging, and settlement handled beneath the surface. Assets detected across networks automatically, so capital moves where it's needed without manual coordination. When complexity disappears, interoperability finally becomes usable at scale. So similar to what Layer Zero was talking about, what they can do, but yet its market cap is 1/50th of the price of Layer Zero's, and yet they have a lot more history, and their technology has come together. And that doesn't mean Layer Zero won't be successful, but I can't tell if Layer Zero's price is extremely punished and cheap, but OneChain, you could see that, right? And I've had their team on a number of times. In fact, had their lead scientist come join us. He's one of the premier scientists in the world at this kind of stuff. And so they've got the right people behind them. And yet their market cap's at $13.5 million, which is really inexpensive. So this is solidly in a buy zone for me. Sometimes in the bear market, like I had no idea they would even get this cheap, and yet they are this cheap. And sometimes when the pendulum swings, it swings too far each way. And that's what I like about crypto, because when things get really price punished, sometimes the price swings so far to the downside. But then when the market flips around, they can swing so far to the upside. And that gap between what you can buy at and what you can sell at is what creates the wealth here. Nexo falls into this category. Nexo.
The layer zero, I think that perhaps followed into from that previous comment.
Yeah, maybe that's premier digital asset wealth platform designed to empower clients to grow, manage, and preserve their crypto holdings. Lead the next generation wealth creation by focusing on customer success and delivering tailored solutions. Since 2018, so they've been around a long time. I don't know if it's that same thing. They've gone up all the way to $3.90 at a high, and they're down at 90 cents. Okay. All right. Well, Paul, thank you for joining us. I know you've got a tight schedule today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to update you guys, and thanks for the comments and stuff. And look, we can see that the crypto market's a lot quieter, and it's probably going to be like that for a while. But there will be another bull market at some point. And we've said this before, haven't we? We were saying this around 15,000, that you have to be there every week to see the opportunities, because when things turn around, it's usually when everyone's got they're kind of back to the market and they've abandoned it. So, I get that it's difficult times right now, but we've just got to keep doing our analysis and look for the opportunities when they come.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks a lot, and see you next week.
All right. We'll see you. Well, 7% of the time, historically in crypto, the gains are made during just 7% of the time. And so, like Paul was right saying, it just so often feels like nothing is happening or prices are down. And what you're doing is you're positioning, like what I look for is patterns. And when I got into crypto, I was like, okay, I see lots of people have been in crypto for a long time, and but who is rich and what are they doing? And so as I really dug into that my first 4 years in this, and then I realized that really it comes down to, I like the buy and hold strategy. Most of the people that were wealthy through crypto literally bought and hold. They buy and then they hold. Okay, but what specifically do you buy and hold? And I had to come up with some rules of what I was going to look for that I was going to buy and hold, because some projects fail. Some never really rebound. So what were going to be my criteria looking for? What types of projects, at what points was I going to buy and hold them, and how long could you end up holding them? What does the timeframes look like? Well, I found so far like as I've really narrowed down the spectrum of what I'm looking for, I like projects at least 2 years old, and I like them to be severely punished in price. So I can look at the price and be like, wow, they're way outside the narrative. Their price is really cheap. And they really are working hard, and they have a great team, and they have runway that they can continue. So WAN Chain is one of my favorites in there. Dfinity, they're strategic partners. Paul worked for Dfinity, but Dfinity has a token, and I really like their token. There's a number of blockchain gaming projects that I really, really like. I think two that come to mind are Cornucopias, which rebranded to Infinity Rising. If you look at their token price, it's so punished right now. And I like that because the key to making money is buy low, sell high. We recently did an interview with them. And you see in the interview, they talked about they have plenty of runway opportunities so that they've got enough runway to succeed for blockchain gaming to really come into the narrative. So their price is really low. They've got lots of runway, meaning the project can continue for a while so that they've got survivability. Yeah, what is it? Illuvium is one of my favorite blockchain gaming projects, and a number of projects out there that they're really price punished right now with this, especially this altcoin punishment going on. And I do think like everyone's so bearish on altcoins, and that's usually what it looks like at the bottom of pricing structures. And then that momentum switches around, catching almost everyone off guard. And then the major gains are made. Remember what the numbers looked like, that 5% of the people are massively successful in crypto, but only 5%. Well, whenever in crypto, 95% of people are saying a certain direction, kind of like, oh, no altcoin bear market or no altcoin bull market is going to happen. Just on average, going against that trade is going to be right. That doesn't guarantee it, but on average, literally, my mentor in investing 20 years ago, he oversimplified what he does. He said, I just look at what 90% of people are doing, and I do the opposite. And we see that in crypto. So the fact that so many people are bearish on higher risk altcoins makes me more bullish than ever. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy this wrap. If you've been here a while, you know what this wrap is all about. Just a fun way reinforcing these principles. We'll see you next week.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, right before you could, was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always made the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, but leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be cracking. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, my years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I'll follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.